Dear ones, I am Archangel Michael. This week, since I realize that a lot of new things could happen to you, I'm going to explain some facts, so that you start to get used to it, and understand what is happening, or what will be happening, with each of you. Firstly, a concept needs to be very clear to you. Each of you is a soul. Each of you is the physical representation in this dimension of a soul. This soul can be a soul originating from here on this planet, or it can also be an evolved soul. What you mean? Which contains other fractals in higher dimensions. There is a concept that the soul is the lowest dimension in which it is incarnated. So we can say that all of you, today on this planet, are all equal and are from the third dimension. It doesn't matter that you have fractals in extremely higher dimensions. Today here, now, on this planet, you are third-dimensional souls. There is nothing to question. So I'm going to try to show you how it works. Each higher self decides how many fractals it will divide that soul into, so that it can gradually evolve, but can also continue learning, where there are lessons to be learned. So it's as if a soul started with 2 fractals. That's not a rule, I'm telling a story. So a soul started with 2 fractals, both in the same dimension. Obvious, because it was just created, and each of these fractals will follow different paths. You will receive the surroundings, you will receive different missions from the other fractal. Then a lot of time passes, and these 2 fractals continue to exist. But one stands out over the other. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It may take a short time, or it may take a long time. But one of them stands out. One of them has learned some lessons, he already has an understanding of what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is not for his soul journey. Then the higher self realizes that it is time for that more evolved fractal to move forward. Then the higher self ascends that fractal, to a greater dimension. Note that I'm talking about very low dimensions, the soul has just been created. So let's say that one of the fractals is in first and the other is already in second. And so, the evolution of that soul continues. That piece that is in segunda could do very well, he can continue the journey he has already taken, normally, always demonstrating greater ease of evolution. Then you will ask, but wait, isn't it the same soul? Why is one fractal different from another? That's what I said here, they are different paths. They are not faced with the same experiences, the same challenges. So continuing. So that second soul evolved, and can even reach the third, start to incarnate and live in a third dimension, thus experiencing all types of feelings wherever she is. That fractal that was in first is not doing well. It's that fractal that rebels against everything, doesn't seek to evolve, is always going against the ideas put to it. It's as if that fractal that is in the second dimension passes information to the one that is in the first dimension all the time. Telling him, look, do it this way, it will help you. I've been there, I know the way. So repeat what I did and you will succeed. So that fractal there at first, from time to time you hear some things, you feel it, but often you don't pay much attention. Many times they don't accept it, they think it doesn't exist. Yes, that fractal has consciousness, obviously it does. Everything has consciousness, and that other fractal is already in Tercera and is already experiencing many things. And he can't understand why that piece is still there in first, keeping pace, he can't walk. So what does the higher self do? He expands that soul into another fractal of first, to help those who are unable to leave. And the whole process starts for that new fractal. It may happen that he manages to elevate that other person, or it may happen that he doesn't and he himself elevates himself as well. So it's as if each fractal that your soul transforms into follows its own path. Everyone has a path. Each one has a different experience than the other. That soul needs to learn a lot. So the experiences have to be diverse. And then in the same way that higher self also places several fractals in different locations, in different orbs, at different points in the universe, so that those fractals react to the environment in different ways. So this is what a soul's journey is like. The higher self decides who ascends and who descends, many times. Because that soul cannot maintain itself at that level it reached. So she needs to descend, she needs to return to previous levels so she can learn. And this process is constant. Until it reaches certain levels of the soul, it no longer descends, it no longer incarnates. They are purely souls of light and the tendency is only to go up, not to go down. Unless the soul is due to a decision from the higher self itself, that soul is important for that moment in the universe, for that orb. Let it descend from its magnitude, to lower dimensions, to develop a race, to improve an orb. Do not think that it is easy for a soul that is already in dimensions, only of light, to generate a fractal of such a low dimension. The soul is one. She is a whole organism. So all the influences that lower dimension will bring will affect the soul as a whole. Because she is one, she is one. I'll go back to the example of the octopus, it's a people and its tentacles, where each tentacle is in one dimension, but the octopus is one. So everything that happens in a tentacle is felt by the whole, it is felt by the whole soul. So, in the same way that the soul feels everything that happens in that lower dimensional fractal, that fractal that is in higher dimensions also passes on all its experience to others. Because the main objective is not to keep the soul in those lower fractals. The main objective is to make the soul evolve as a whole, all your fractals begin to rise and unite, becoming a single soul, with a single fractal. Because there is no longer a need for the soul to have several fractals when it reaches a certain point in its journey. Those lower fractals have to evolve over time for this to happen. So my brothers, why did I tell this whole story? I hope you understood. The soul is really the octopus, the center, the mind of the octopus is the higher self of each soul, which is existing in the universe. The tentacles are exactly each dimension, where there is a fractal of that soul. Then information is exchanged, the higher ones pass to the lower ones, so that they learn and evolve. So keep this concept in your minds. Now let's go back to the current period. As I said at the beginning, all of you, all souls incarnated on this planet at this moment, are third souls. It doesn't matter that they have tentacles and dimensions above. This fractal of your souls is here in Tercera. Whether they are souls from here on this planet or souls from other orbs, it doesn't matter either. They were all mentally imprisoned, in a process of forgetting that was the wheel of samsara. In a way this was created to keep them exactly, so that they would comply and learn some lessons. The initial design of the wheel of samsara is not what existed until recently. The plan was for the soul to remain in Tercera for a certain period of time, until it learned some lessons, and it would be removed from this process, so that it could evolve. No matter how long it would be as long as it took for that soul to learn the few mistakes it had made. But the process was manipulated by those who arrived here. And that time ceased to exist, that time that would be given to each soul to fulfill those few lessons ceased to exist. It became eternal, with that illusion that you would always have to come back to recover what you did in the past. Which is not entirely a lie, the problem is that this never ended. Because you made mistakes, you died, you reincarnated and you didn't remember the mistakes you had made, and you did it all over again. If it were a normal process, we could say that those superior fractals would guide you not to repeat those mistakes, but that was not possible either. Because you have been encapsulated in a great farce, in a big lie, that you were inferior, sinners, without powers, and that you could never have anything from above. Your minds were forced to believe that nothing you did would help you free yourself from this process. This is what we call veils, which Sananda calls bandages, chains. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it was done to you. And the more those souls had fractals at higher levels, the more they were packaged, the more veils were placed, with each incarnation. So if the souls of Tercera, in each incarnation, gained a single veil, so that they would not remember the previous incarnation, those souls that already had fractals in higher dimensions were packed with many more. Because they couldn't risk that soul waking up, that soul having contact with the higher dimensions.